In today's episode, Ken reflects on how motivation evolves over time. What starts as survival or simply paying the bills can eventually become purpose, leadership, impact, and building a meaningful life. Like, subscribe, and follow for more conversations on growth, purpose, and the experiences that shape us.
So I want to talk a little bit about why you do what you do. I can tell you when I started my career, being fresh out of college, being fresh out of Penn State, I was I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I studied business and marketing at Penn State. I went abroad. I went to a place called Alicante, Spain. I don't know. Part of me wanted to play soccer. Obviously, playing in college, I felt like I had some ability. Um, but the workforce and kind of the kind of what was going on back then kind of made me or forced me to make certain decisions. Back in 2001, some of you guys may not have been around, but you maybe read about it in your history books. There was something called September 11th. September 11th was my career fair day at Penn State. It was the one day that my college soccer coach gave me off from practice as a senior, a fifth year senior, to go find a job and maybe get my foot in the door with companies because we practiced every day. And if you missed practice, you didn't have, you know, you didn't play, to say the least. Um, and so that day I woke up, it was 8 in the morning, 7, 8 in the morning. I was getting ready. I was putting on the only suit I had. My parents had just given it to me for my birthday. I threw on my shirt. I threw on my borrowed tie from my dad because he had a big group of them, and I was getting ready. I remember turning on Good Morning America. I was in the house that I shared with five other guys on the soccer team, and it was 2 floors. I remember walking in out of the kitchen, getting ready, walking by the bathroom, and right about 8:30, I hear on the TV, "Oh my God, did you see the news? That there's something going on in New York. A plane. They think a plane hit the World Trade Centers." And like, there's all these news reports, and I'm like standing there getting ready, putting on my shirt and my tie. I'm like, it's kind of weird. And then they had footage, and they're showing New York City skyline with smoke coming out of one of the buildings. And a few moments later, one of the cameras turned to the skyline, and I'm watching this live on TV. And they're like, "Is that another plane? I think another plane. Oh my God, the plane! It's going to the buildings." And I watched live the second plane hit the second World Trade Center. And I remember like being so confused, and so scared, and so just like what is going on? And I turned off the TV. I ended up calling my dad, calling my mom, and I asked them if they'd seen what was going on, and they obviously started hearing about it too. And I was like, "What do I do?" Like today's, I don't know. I'm like just anxious and confused and scared and whatever. And I said, "Hey, I'm supposed to go to the Bryce Jordan Center to find a job, and if I don't play soccer." And they're like, "Hey, just go down to the hub and kind of figure it out and see what they're doing." So I went down to the hub. It's the central part of Penn State where they have a bunch of, um, a bunch of like the restaurants, and it's where the kids go to hang out and whatever. It's kind of the main kind of student centers and things. And when I get there, there's like people that are hysterical all over the place. Ton of people crying. There's like a massive screen that was right when you enter. It's like showing the news, CNN, and of course, there's a lot of people that are dressed up because they're going to the career fair that day. And and as I'm walking around, and I'm trying to find some of my buddies and my friends to figure out what I was going to do, um, obviously there's a ton of reports coming out about what was going on in New York City. And then if within an hour or two, they talked about another plane going down in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, and another plane in Virginia, and close to the Pentagon. And within an hour or two, I heard the career fair got canceled. There's a lot of companies coming from those areas, and a lot of people that just turned around and went home. I got a phone call from my soccer coach, and he said, "Hey, I know today the career fair got canceled, but we're gonna have practice anyways. The seniors, we want you guys to come. Although it was your day off." Ended up going to the locker room, ended up going to practice, and just not knowing. And I'll tell you, in the meantime, which super scary. I called my parents back and I talked to my dad, and he said, "Hey, have you talked to your brother?" I was like, "No." He said he was supposed to go to New York today, and he was in Boston. And I was like, "Oh shit," because the reports had come out that a plane from Boston had crashed in New York. So I kept calling him, calling him, calling him, and a lot of because of what was going on in that region, the cell phone services were down. You couldn't get through. And it took us like 3 hours. Thankfully, he decided to drive that day because he definitely flew, and found out later the flight was going to LA or whatever, unfortunately, um, for that scenario. But I just remember that day just being so confusing and so scary. And it really impacted a lot of people in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, one of my very good friends, some of her family worked in the World Trade Centers. They were from New York. There's a few people on my soccer team that, you know, older players, older whatever, that were, in that financial district, and when the buildings came down. And I'll tell you, like, why you do what you do that day. Actually, I know people that decided to go in the military that day to stand up for our country. I know people that that day, unfortunately, because of the career fairs, totally changed their trajectory of what they chose to do coming out of college. And so, I'll tell you, I think we all go through things. We all have things that happen in our lifetime, things that make major impacts, things that impact us and help us make pivots, some positive and some negative. And I can tell you, when I started in this business, I fell into this, and unfortunately, September 11th had a lot of the reason to do with it. Because of that day, there was a lot of companies that were telling me, as a college graduate, double major, double minor, Division 1 athlete, 3.2 GPA, only in my senior classes, by the way. My other first 2 years were like 2.5. But, they told people like me that you don't have enough experience. We can't even look at your resume. We're on a hiring freeze. We don't know what's going to happen with the economy for the next 6 to 12 months. A lot of things changed in the last 3 months because of September 11th. And so that's why I started sending my resume out on Monster, on Career Builder. And Penn State didn't really even help me find this position. I had to do it on my own because, again, college graduates were not getting a shot. They were not getting an opportunity, especially that new out of school. And I started this business. The only reason I started is because I needed to pay my bills. I needed to do something. I didn't want to work in a bar. I didn't want to work in a restaurant. I didn't want to work in a dead end job. I wanted to do something that had purpose and that I could also pay my bills. And when I came in on my second interview, I looked around, I saw motivated people. I saw people that cared, people that worked hard. It reminded me of my soccer team, reminded me of the group of guys that I just went and spent 4 years with. And then over a few months, I started seeing people get promoted. And I started to realize why I started wasn't why I was staying. I started because I needed a job. Why I stayed is because I wanted to grow. I wanted to get ahead. I started seeing people fall off. So I'm seeing people not do well, not perform, and get fired for performance and get let go for being silly and doing stupid things, immature issues mainly. And I started to realize that if I was going to continue to succeed at whatever I did, that people that have responsibility make more money. People that have teams and they lead and they mentor and they manage other people, they make more money than people who typically are running their own solo game. And so I wanted to be a part of the smaller groups. I wanted to be in the smaller rooms. I started to realize assistant managers did different things like recruiting and hiring and bigger decisions. I wanted to do that. I started to realize that, hey, Michael, he was 27 years old, he made a lot more money than me. And he just learned how to run an office. And I wanted to, if I wanted to do the sales, and I was the owner, I'd get extra comp. If you don't know this, if the owner goes in the field, instead of making 70 bucks a line, you make 120 or 125. You basically make 2x what you make as a rep if you decide as an owner to go in the field because you have the owner's profit on it. There's an extra stroke. So I was like, oh, if I wanted to do that and I'm a rookie and all great rookies go out and set the pace, they make $1,000 in the field, they actually make 1,700 for their office, which is a lot more. And then, I started to realize I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted control at a young age. I didn't want to wait until 30, 35 to start hitting real goals. I have a friend of mine that is in our business, and listen, he's 7 years in. He just bought a Rolls Royce. His name's Benny. He just exchanged one of his Ferraris and got a Rolls. I'm like, the business is different today than it was 20 years ago. But and listen, that's what success looks like to him. That's why he does what he does. He's got 5 of those fancy cars, right? But as you do something, entrepreneurship became my future. I wanted to run my own business. And again, that's it, running your own business is hard. Most businesses go out of business in their first year, especially. And so I started to realize that as my why was changing and I was changing, you had to be among the few. There's value in scarcity. You got to be able to do things other people aren't willing to do or other people just can't do. I can't dunk a basketball and I'm not 7'2". And trust me, I'm 6'3". I try to dribble a little bit and clearly I can't dribble like the guys in the NBA. And to be fair, I can't also, you know, do certain things on the soccer field that I thought I could do. And that's why I didn't become the elite of that. But if you want to be successful, you got to do things other people can't do or they're not willing to do. And to me in our business, willing to do the business, having a willful positive attitude, taking rejection, believing in yourself. These are things that I would do anyways. And so I started to realize, oh my gosh, I fell into the last job I'm ever going to have in my life because of a big reason, because of September 11th. And so the truth is, people don't struggle because they're weak. They struggle because they've forgotten what matters. When people don't perform at a position that they figure out in 5 days, it's not normally a skill, kind of like we were talking about earlier for 1K Saturday. It's because they lost their purpose. They're not connected. Their mind and their heart's just not connected, which is okay. So if you're in that spot where you're not connected and you need some help, you need a mentor. You need someone who can help build you. You need someone that can help push you. You need someone to help give you that light when you're in a dark place. So I encourage you to know that as business evolves, things change, life changes, you change. Just remember, never underestimate a life when you have intention. Because this opportunity, some of us, some of my partners and myself, and a lot of people on this call that run offices have become millionaires, have become people that can make a difference. And the crazy thing is, my mom used to say, people that make millions of dollars, people that have money, rich people are rude, rich people are snobs. Well, when you make money, trust me when I tell you, it just accentuates who you are. And if you're an amazing human being, it's going to give you the fuel and the opportunity to do amazing things for people you love, people you care about, and maybe people you work with. So, no matter where you are in your opportunity, if you're just getting started in our offices, or you're been around for more than a year or two, or you've been around like I have for 10 or 15 or 20 plus. And yes, I started when I was 7. Um, doesn't matter where you are. Just remember why you're doing what you're doing. And it could be as basic as just paying your bills like me when I got started. But over time, it will change and it'll create some more purpose.